starving for vitality, we're turning to energy drinks, stimulants, and pharmaceuticals to try to improve our focus, increase our metabolism, rescue our sex drive, and adapt to the stresses of modern day living. Each year, an elk sheds its impressive antlers, regenerating an even larger set the following year. These velvet antlers have been a revered traditional medicine for thousands of years. Elk antler harnesses the adaptogenic and highly regenerative growth factors from this natural and ethical resource into a concentrated, bioavailable extraction. Its revitalizing effects span bone, muscle, and nerve support, improve metabolism, cellular repair, sexual potency, anti-inflammation, vascular strengthening, and hormone production. Humanely harvested from free-range U.S. elk, extracted in organic alcohol, and protected in Miron glass, our elk antler is available in 3 strengths to restore your vitality at any level. Velvet antler extracts are made from the growing antler tips of cervid mammals. Antlers are such a unique organ. They contain many of the things that we would find in our own limbs. For instance, they have hair on the outside, which is why we refer to them as velvet. Underneath that hair is skin, and beneath that skin, connective tissue, blood vessels, nerves, lots of bony or osseous material. It's a lot like an arm or a leg that lacks just sort of articulation or muscle mass. Throughout time, traditional cultures realized that if those antlers fell off and regrew every year, that they must contain regenerative substances. In fact, in Chinese medicine, those antlers were used for thousands of years and considered the most regenerative substance in nature. The Russians realized the same thing, and they referred to antlers as the horns of gold, and they were consumed there as a traditional folk medicine. The research we have on the effects of velvet antler comes out of Russia, where it was recorded during the Cold War research on adaptogens. What was discovered is that not only is it a regenerative substance, but it's one of the most adaptogenic substances we can take into our bodies. Elk velvet extracts contain 24 naturally occurring growth factors, including IGF-1. That's the end product of HGH. You hear about people going to regenerative clinics or anti-aging clinics be injected with human growth hormone. When human growth hormone gets into the body, it's converted into IGF-1, which is found naturally occurring in antler extracts. Elk antler extracts also contain 6 different types of collagens. Now, as we know, collagens keep our skin from wrinkling, keep it plump and firm, keep our joints healthy and supple. Collagen builds our entire connective tissue matrix, which is critical to musculoskeletal health. Velvet antler extracts are probably best known and most celebrated for their effects on libido. Throughout time, elk velvet extracts have been the go-to herbal formula for increasing our libido and keeping healthy sexuality in place as we age. Elk velvet extracts are probably the best anti-aging or regenerative formula that we could take into our bodies. If you can imagine the Earth a few thousand years ago and how the medical systems worked at that time, before left brain reasoning, before the modern scientific paradigm, people would learn from observing nature. That's how they would determine what to use, what would be good for you. The Chinese observed for a long time the deer, and when we look through the Chinese longevity history or through their teachings and writings, remember the Chinese, more than any other culture, really did master the idea of longevity. The Taoists pretty much mastered that idea, and some of them were living very long periods of time. Well, they would observe their environment looking for the things that would create the elixir. If they were looking for the fountain of youth, if you will. And that's been a quest in many cultures. What they noticed, there was a unique thing about the deer, that they would grow these large antlers in about 3 months, and then at the end of the season they would fall off. So that's the only organ of in the mammalian kingdom that completely regenerates. In other words, if you cut off a limb of a mammal, it doesn't grow back. But somehow this organ system always grows back every year, and it grows bigger every year as well. So what they determined from watching that was that if that antler was regenerating, it must then contain something that causes regeneration. So the idea was if you could get that and turn it into a medicine, that you could use that property that was in it to regenerate yourself. Today we have the benefit of science and chemistry to understand a little bit about what's in the deer antler. And what we know is that it contains a very complex symbiotic balance of growth factors. Growth factors are things created in our own bodies, proteins in our own bodies, that we use to stimulate growth and repair and maintenance and regeneration. But as we age, the numbers or the levels of these different growth factors starts to taper off. So it's very interesting then if you can find a food that contains growth factors. Well, it turns out, of course, that the antlers contain tremendous amounts of growth factor during certain stages of their growth. Early in the season, in the springtime, the deer antler starts to crack through the skull. It grows covered in velvet, soft, and grows a couple centimeters a day. Eventually, at the end of the season, they scrape off against trees. They scrape the velvet off, and this hardens into a bone. Once it's reached this stage, there's no more benefit, no medicine left in it. But when it's soft, if those antlers can be made into a medicine, you can actually absorb the growth factors yourself. That's been known for a long time. It's been done for thousands of years in China and Korea, and it's been done for almost 1,000 years in Russia as well. So there's extensive history, and what we know is that it's a tonic. In other words, there's no negative property. You can never overdose on it. There's no toxic limit or toxic load. Classically, deer antler was an aphrodisiac, classically, and it's a very potent one because it stimulates the gonadal hormone systems. That's, of course, the ovaries and the testicles. So throughout time, it's been used for both men and women to stimulate the sex drive. Keeping in mind, of course, that for the Chinese, the sex drive was an indicator of someone's overall health. And they felt the more life force you had, the more virile you would become. Deer antler, though, is also used by bodybuilders. It's used by athletes, and that's because it aids in recovery time tremendously. It causes the burning of body fat, it causes the building of lean muscle mass and lean body mass. It essentially reorients someone's entire constitution and metabolism. Turns the metabolism up, gets the body burning away old material, and gets the body rebuilding itself and restructuring itself. One of the things that I think is exciting about it is that it contains nerve growth stimulant factor, which is really valuable because you may have been taught that nerves don't regenerate. Well, that's usually true, except in the presence of nerve growth stimulant factor, which actually causes nervous tissue to regrow. So for people who have old injuries, some of us are actually on a quest for deep healing where we want to regenerate ourselves completely. Well, if you're going to do that, you need the sort of special elixir that has the stuff in it that causes regeneration. Deer antler causes the regrowth of bone, of joint material, of nerves, of skin, of cartilage, of all of the connective tissues. So essentially, if you're training or exercising or trying to rebuild yourself, if you're getting deep body work or doing deep cleansing, everything you need to rebuild your body from the ground up is either in or stimulated by deer antler. If you want to regenerate yourself, if you want to stay youthful and young, it makes sense you'd want to eat something that contain the things that cause regeneration in mammals. And that's what deer antler is. All of the deer antler is sourced from cruelty-free farms who allow their animals to range freely, and only the antler tips are used to make the medicine. That's a quality level that's not always easy to find out there in the marketplace.
Each of our Immortal Velvet formulations is characterized by the quantity of the 43-to-1 antler tip extract it contains. Our Immortal Velvet Silver contains 450 milligrams of our 43-to-1 extract. Containing 1,000 milligrams of our 43-to-1 extract, Immortal Velvet Gold is more than double the potency of our Immortal Velvet Silver. And introducing Immortal Velvet Platinum, our most concentrated and most potent formulation to date. At 1,500 milligrams of our 43-to-1 extract, this is by far the most concentrated antler extract available anywhere today. Plus, we've added Tribulus terrestris, an herb which has been used to upregulate our body's natural production of sex hormones.